Things have been absolutely insane in crypto. I'm convinced that there is no better roller coaster ride than in crypto right now. Today is no different. More big news happening. We have some XRP news today, Bitcoin news. We have some Chainlink news. We have some banking news. All right. So we're going to begin with this article here. This article is titled Ripple CEO hails, quote, big win, unquote, in California. What is going on now? Every single day there's something massive happening. It's as if they've sped up the timeline and they're trying to rush everything to get it all done. I just feel that way. And sure, some people could say this is all a coincidence that all of this is happening now after a year or so of a dry period, very dry period. But coincidence, I believe, and I agree with many of the ancient masters, coincidence is but cause and effect unrecognized. It begins here. It says Brad Garlinghouse claims that the California ruling was a big win. What California ruling? Why do they write like that? What California ruling? I guess we're left to assume the California ruling was a, quote, big win, unquote, for his company. All right, well, can you tell me what's going on, Mr. Article Writer? Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has hailed a recent ruling in a civil securities lawsuit against his company as a big win. Okay, all right, I see what's going on here. On Thursday, Judge Phyllis Hamilton, who leads Northern California's U.S. District Court, allowed the lawsuit to go to trial. One state law claimed, which centers around statements made by Garlinghouse about XRP in 2017 interview, has now been allowed to proceed to trial. Okay, I see why he's saying it's a big win. Yeah. I want to say this also. Let me pause it before we go to the next article here. I've noticed a distinct change, right? I've seen a lot of clips. I go back and I watch old stuff a lot. And I read a lot of old articles and old PDFs as well. That's just something that I do to see if I like missed something or maybe something that might be in play now that I may have forgotten about. You know, I think a few people might do that. But in old interviews, you watch Brad Garlinghouse, some of those interviews, he's just going through the motions. He looks a little concerned about things. And sure, some people may just write that off. Yeah, you know, at that time they were going through something with Ripple. Sure. But they're still going through something with Ripple right now, right? According to a lot of people, they're still in the thick of it. But if you watch the last 2 to 3 months, because I played the old interviews, then I played some of the new interviews. And recently, he just seems so just happy, excited. That is not the behavior of someone who's in a tight spot. It's not. That's the behavior of someone who knows something, who's on the cusp of something big, in my humble opinion. You watch the psychology. You have to follow the psychology of individuals. It's like playing poker. All right. If you're a good poker player, you're watching for the tells. Most people have them. Some people are tapping. They have nervous energy. They do something when they're under pressure. And if you watch enough of their footage, you can start to view what their patterns are. Sometimes if you talk to people, they have a certain speech pattern, certain verbiage they use. You can begin to see the psychology of what people do when they're in different moods and energies and when different things happen to them or for them in life. It's like poker. Then there's a different type of energy and activity when someone is on the cusp of a victory. Maybe they tap their glasses or something, or they're smiling much more. They laugh or they talk a little bit more. Some people get under pressure. They don't want to talk a lot under pressure, but when the pressure is relieved, now they want to interact and talk. I watch things like that. And when I'm looking at Brad Garlinghouse right now, I just don't feel. Look, I felt like they always were in a strong position with the Ripple case. I did. So maybe this is my own personal thoughts sort of encroaching on what I'm about to say. So be it. I'm a person like everyone else. So I'm going to put the case to the side. I don't think it has to do with the case. I don't. I'm looking at what's going on globally. Okay. And I'm looking at the position that Ripple and a lot of the other bank coins are in. Listen, I put out a members only video to provide more clarity. Okay. I put out a members only video yesterday. Please go watch it. I thought that was one of my best ones. I gave my raw thoughts. I have some new thoughts that I'm working on here, and I'm watching something very closely. Now, wait a minute. So anyway, now keeping that in mind, the positioning of Ripple globally, and then taking into account the dilapidated state of the legacy system, I believe that there's something massive that might be on the table. It doesn't have to be a guarantee for Garling House to be excited. Have you ever, once again, going into the psychology of people, it's not necessarily once you have the bit of cake that gets everyone excited. Not for everyone. Having the bit of cake, I'm using this as an example, can be exciting, sure, but at that moment you have it, you know you're about to eat it. Already that excitement may be on a decline. But for many individuals, it's the idea of the cake being on the table. I feel like Garling House, there's something on the table massive. Once again, you don't have to take my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to, this is my thoughts from what I'm observing. And I trust myself 100%. I feel like something's on the table huge that other people don't know about. Garling House and his inner circle in Ripple, they do know about. It has nothing to do with the SEC case, or very little. And so he's giggling like a child who has candy in his pocket that he can eat later, but his friends don't know. So his friends are like, why is Brad so happy? He's laughing. The candy's in his pocket. And I feel like when you look at the opportunities that are out there that are not apparent, there are massive opportunities on the table for XRP. Look at this right here. If you read to the end of this article, as much as they're going against him about XRP, he's still standing by XRP. Read these articles lately. He's still standing by XRP. He's still pushing XRP out there. He's still saying he's bullish about XRP. That's what this is all about. His statements on being bullish about XRP, which he's never wavered on. The question is why? Not why, because some people are going to say, well, it's Ripple and XRP is their main thing. Listen, Ripple could do whatever they want. XRP is their best thing. It is one of the best things, sure. But once again, his energy has not always been that way. So that negates, I believe, that scenario. So that means if it's not necessary, it's not the court case that's getting him happy and giddy. He's always been bullish on XRP. So that's not what's getting him happy and giddy right now about that particular opportunity. There must be something new, a new catalyst. Behaviors don't simply change. There is a catalyst for that change. The question is, what is the catalyst? That's the question. What's so big? And here's another thing I'm going to put on the table. My apologies. I know I'm supposed to get to the other articles, but I'm giving you my raw thoughts, my most potent thoughts. Okay. Here's the other thing that's actually that's on my mind, at the forefront of my mind. They've brought in so many big partnerships, multitude of banks, multitude of platforms that they've built, even the Hong Kong Monetary Authority platform, or the Hong Kong platform, CBDC platform. Who knows how they're going to use that, but I'm just giving it as an example of something major that Ripple has done. They've built corridors all around the world, all of this big stuff. And yet through all of that, like I said, you watch some of those older interviews, it just seems like Brad is going through the motions, but now not so much so. So whatever, once again, I could be wrong on this, but it's something that I'm keeping my eye on. But now, whatever it is, whatever the catalyst is, whatever the cake on the table is, he hasn't eaten the cake yet. Maybe the deal isn't even done yet. It doesn't have to be. But there's an opportunity that is there as a catalyst that is so huge, so impactful, that he's just giggling like a child with candy in his back pocket through all of these interviews, and just with his chest out, talking about how bullish he is on everything that they're doing, especially XRP. I have some ideas. I'm not ready to put them out just yet, but I have some ideas. Like I said, I went over simply one idea, just in the members only section. In the video that I released yesterday, Sometimes if you want to join the members only section, watch the video. Sometimes the join button is right below the video here. Sometimes it's in the description box. I don't know why YouTube does what it does. We don't control YouTube, but that's how they do it. Okay. So anyway, so now let's move on to another article here because I don't want to take up too much time. We're going to skip the next XRP article. I felt like the first one was potent enough with those ideas that it brought from my mind. Let's move on to a little bit of this Bitcoin news. All right. There's always something happening with the big dog Bitcoin. So this article is titled, "It's now possible to invest in Bitcoin on Australia's largest stock exchange. Is the currency going mainstream?" Well, I'll say so. These are the beginnings. This is major. And by the way, shout out to all of the great subscribers from Australia. I appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate all the messages that you have left. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So this is huge. It says the Australian Securities Exchange has just seen the listing of its first spot Bitcoin spot exchange traded fund ETF for short, issued by investment management firm VanEck. The new investment product is trading under the ticker symbol, quote, VBTC, unquote. It's not the first Bitcoin ETF to launch in Australia. Others have been available for some time on the smaller exchange Cboe Australia. But it is a first for the ASX, our largest stock exchange. If international experience is anything to go by, the ASX's new Bitcoin spot ETF is likely to draw significant interest and could be the first of many similar products. It says in January, American investment manager BlackRock. Oh, then they go into a little bit of that, but we're very familiar with that entire story. It says a basket of investments, and then they go into ETFs, of course. I wonder how many people they believe don't know what an ETF is. I think most people are very well informed on some of these. It says here, some of this information, I believe. It says nowhere near the size of the U.S. market. Why would you say that? I don't understand this. Like some of these writers are in love with negativities and comparison. I just don't understand why. You said something positive. You got the attention of the people. Why not leave it there? Why didn't come back with this? Why is there a comparison between the United States and Australia at all? I don't understand this. I'm not in love with negativities at all. It doesn't move you forward. If you need to look at something and find the flaw in it so you can avoid the flaw, that's one thing. But if you're just going to pointlessly, inundate yourself with negativities, I think that's quite silly. Just my humble opinion, no disrespect. In the U.S., the watershed moment for spot Bitcoin ETFs came on January the 10th this year when the U.S. SEC Commission approved 11 of them. Okay, so then they go into a little bit of comparison, and actually they begin with that. It says, in comparison, existing Australian Bitcoin ETFs are orders of magnitude smaller in scale. Global X's, quote, EBTC, unquote, which has traded on Cboe Australia since 2022, manages just over $100 million in assets and sees a mere fraction of the trade volume. This means liquidity. The ease with which an asset can be bought, sold, and converted to cash is much higher in the U.S. And then they go into a little bit more comparison here, but I'm not going to go too much further with that. So now let's move on here to a little bit of Chainlink news. Find out what's going on with Link, one of my most bullish cryptos long into the future. They have a very bright future. So now this article is titled Chainlink Skyrockets. Oh, and whale activity. Why'd you write it like that, writer? Chainlink skyrockets 1,453%. They got me excited for a minute. I'm about to say to myself, I need to go check the charts. It skyrocketed 1,000%. Not yet, Mick, right? Not yet. It says in whale activity, massive move coming. Which way? Up or down? I don't know. Let's see. 18 million Link tokens sent to cryptocurrency exchanges in the last 24 hours. I'm not worried about Link at all. Not with what they're doing in the future time when Bitcoin goes off and also when all those massive partnerships kick in. I think Link has a bright destiny. It says Chainlink, the decentralized Oracle network, has recently seen a staggering 1,453% surge in large transaction volume, signaling significant whale activity. This increase in activity raises questions about what might be driving these movements and whether a massive price move is on the horizon. Let's scroll down here. It says, according to Into the Block data, Chainlink is recording a, why do they keep repeating it? They say it again. They say is recording a 1,453% surge. You told us that 2 or 3 times already. Why write it one more time? Why, writer? Why? Spare me, please. I hate when they repeat themselves multiples of times. Large transaction volumes typically represent the movements of, quote, whales, unquote, or large holders with substantial amounts of cryptocurrency. They do the number again, folks. Folks, am I the only one? Am I the only one who this drives insane? I had a teacher a long time ago, and the teacher taught us this word, pet peeve. I don't know if I'm using that correctly, but she used to say, very brilliant teacher, by the way. I had a lot of brilliant teachers. And she used to say, that's my pet peeve. And then I was like, well, what does that mean? And she explained to the class what it meant. This is a pet peeve of mine. Why do they do it? Look, listen, it says this, the recent 1,453% spike. Is that a search engine optimization thing or something? Like, I don't understand why it would be. Why are they using it so much? I don't know. I'm not an article writer, so I guess I don't know the ins and outs of their SEO. It says spike in Link's large transaction volume might suggest these large players may be making significant moves. A lot of things have seen significant moves. You look at money market funds for the first time in a long time. You had some movement in money market funds. And I mean, I think we all have read the reasons why they're alleging that's happening. I'm not sure if it's actually that, but if that's going to move, then some of crypto definitely is going to move. I'm going to tell you that right now. It says the substantial increase in transaction volume could be a precursor to a coordinated buying or selling strategy aimed at capitalizing on upcoming market movements. Crypto analyst Ali noted that in the last 24 hours, 18 million Link tokens valued at approximately $256 million were sent to cryptocurrency exchanges. Like I said, if money market funds have some sort of outflow, and that money has been just sitting there for a long, long time, then crypto's definitely going to have some outflows, if indeed, that's what's about to occur. So the 4 transactions are as follows: 2 transactions carrying 3.4 million Link. And then it says in 2 separate transactions, 6.9 million Link. And then another one, 4.7 million Link. Okay, so now let's move on here. I think we went far enough with that. Chainlink remains super bullish. Simple as that, man. That changes nothing. This is a time of taking profit. This is a time of liquidations. This is a time for outflows. And once everything starts going up, then that changes, of course. Simple. It's very simple right now. So I wanted to cover this here because this definitely affects a lot of people in the financial environment, the social environment. Affects everything. This article here is titled, "The Affordability Crisis Has Long Plagued Renters, but Now is Coming for Homeowners." Right? And I talked about this quite frequently on the channel of how a lot of individuals are saying that they cannot afford apartments. You have apartment rent prices some of them are now the same as a mortgage. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. It begins, quote, "The lack of affordability defines both the for sale and the for rent housing markets," unquote. That's one of the first lines in a report from Harvard University's Joint Center for Housing Studies out today. Home prices are high, rents are high, and people are feeling the pain. We're seeing that in the number of cost-burdened households. I told people this. Defined as those who spend more than 30% of their income on housing. And here's another thing I was bringing up. I was telling people, and I know it sounds crazy, it sounds hard to believe, but I'm going by actual research and data from experts who are in the field. And they're saying that there are people who normally, let's say they make over $100,000 or such, that normally are doing very well, that are struggling. Now, it's not necessarily about what they're bringing in. I believe from what I've seen, it's just there's a large amount of mismanagement of funds. That also, and then also, yes, everything is just sky high. That's also there. So there's a bit of a dichotomy amongst these things, a duality of sorts, multiples of degrees of polarity in there, and it's all just floating around. If that makes if that makes any sense to you. So mismanagement of funds. There's people with massive amounts of debt. That's one. That's another thing. Massive amounts of debt, from student loans to credit cards, to living beyond their means. You know, some people are doing very well. Then they want to do as well as their neighbor or someone else. Their neighbor gets their whole house remodeled, their kitchen remodeled with the most expensive things. Then they want to do it as well. They couldn't afford it. They're in debt. They're taking out loans. There's all of that going on. So that's how that's possible. All right. So there's a lot of that going on. So now let's continue on here. It says from 2019 to 2022, the number of cost-burdened homeowners rose by 3 million. Wow. To a total of 19.7 million. That means nearly 1 in 4 homeowner households, quote, are now stretched worryingly thin, unquote. The report states, of which 27.4% are ages 65 and up. Really? I did not expect to see that number. I didn't expect that. More concerning, it was households that earned less than $30,000 a year that, quote, constituted over half of the growth in cost-burdened homeowners in 2019 to 2022, unquote. Not to mention 9 million homeowners are severely cost-burdened, defined as those spending more than half of their income on housing. So I want to add this a little bit in. I think that where the future is going to head for many individuals, and it might be wise, is that you see how a lot of people are now banding, their families are coming back together, as opposed to the past few decades where, you know, the mother and father live separate from the grandmother and the grandfather in a lot of cases, not all. And then the children are, you know, sent out into the world. They have college, then they get an apartment and so live on their own. And now it's been reversing where everyone is coming back together to live together to save money and, you know, have things be a little bit easier rather than everyone struggling apart. I think that's going to increase. I believe that's going to continue. It may be something wise to do. I also believe that maybe people will begin to save more. I've seen a little bit of that, but I can't say I've seen a massive amount. I still am viewing many people. I deal with a lot of people all the time, folks. I'm just giving you my experience. It doesn't mean it's yours. I'm still seeing a lot of people spending an abnormal amount of capital to maintain appearances, to go on trips, to go on cruises, things like that. And they're not saving for the future. They're, you know, that is going to, that may be problematic, right? And a lot of it is happening, once again, this is what I'm reading, this is what I'm hearing. A lot of this is happening on credit cards and loans and things of that nature, which is going to be very disadvantageous for the future. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. There's ways around this, but people are going to have to tighten up the belts a little bit and sacrifice a little bit and come together a little bit to get through all of this and make some very tough decisions. I'll tell you that right now. So I just want to put that on everyone's table. All right. So there you go. I thought that was a powerful and interesting article. So now let's get to this banking news very quickly. I don't want to make the video too long. But they're telling. Look at this. Singapore is telling. This article is titled, Singapore Highlights Banks as posing the highest. Why did they just pop an article up right in front of the headline? A giant article, by the way. A giant ad. Sorry about that. Not article. A giant ad. Singapore highlights banks as posing highest money laundering risk. Really? And I said this, listen, oh man, you saw we covered the article about a month ago about the really big bank. I'm not going to mention their name, but the really big bank who got in trouble for something like this. Right. That was a U.S. bank. Right. So this is happening around the world. Although they point the finger at crypto, the banking system, you got to be careful with them. Singapore's banking sector, including wealth management, poses the highest money laundering risk in the city-state, the government said in a money laundering risk assessment report published on Thursday. Not crypto, the banks. Banks had a higher exposure to money laundering threats and could be more easily exploited due to the sheer volume of transactions they handle. And other banks said that as well in that U.S. case. It says, and their exposure to customers from high-risk jurisdictions, the Home Affairs Ministry, the Central Bank, and the Finance Ministry said in a statement. Okay, let's go here. I don't want to take too much time. We're getting to the end here. Let me see if I can squeeze this one in here. This article is titled JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Citibank flagged for holding trillions of dollars in derivatives without proper contingency plans. U.S. regulators are flagging JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, Goldman Sachs over the bank's contingency plans for trillions of dollars in derivatives. The Federal Reserve and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation say the lenders' so-called, quote, living wills, unquote, which in part detail how banks could safely unwind their derivatives portfolios without requiring government assistance, are inadequate. That's an eye-opener, folks. Inadequate, reports Reuters. Let's scroll down here. Bear with me one moment. For Citigroup specifically, the regulators say shortcomings in the bank's data management and control systems are corrupting the bank's calculations on how much liquidity, and capital it would need to close derivative positions in the event of bankruptcy. The use of derivatives played a central role in the 2008 financial crisis. We'll leave it there. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.